Welcome into the CHGO Bedard Podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. Sorry for the late start. We're going to have a late end, so it's going to be an abbreviated edition of the CHGO Blackhawks Podcast. No worries. We got plenty of time to talk about Connor Bedard, so we'll get it in for you. Before we do, smash that like button on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube page. Make sure you are following us on your preferred podcast app, and if you're feeling frisky, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And always remember, become a diehard at ALLCITY.com. Get yourself some free swag when you sign up, a shirt or a hat, and you get 20% off all of our events and merch. It's a great deal. Jump on, become a diehard today. ALLCHGO.com.
Absolutely.
So, fellows, the Connor Bedard angle today that we talked about before the show is how does this accelerate the timeline for the other prospects, if at all? This on the heels of the latest episode of the 32 Thoughts podcast hosted by Elliotte Friedman and Jeff Merrick. And we have a quote from Elliotte Friedman from that show that I wanted to read to everybody. Friedman says, does Bedard accelerate it a little bit? Yes, it does. But look at the roster. There is still a lot of work that needs to be done here. It puts you on the clock to make sure your plan is good for getting players. They were under no real pressure to get good players quickly. Now they're under pressure to find good players quicker. That's Elliotte Friedman on the Blackhawks rebuild. This is sort of what we talked about a little bit yesterday about now that Bedard is here, do you owe it to him? Do you owe it to the team now to go out and find some new players and or bring up some prospects? Today we're going to talk about the prospect angle.
Yeah, I think that idea of bringing in players to kind of insulate him a little bit, make his transition to the NHL a little bit easier. They don't have the horses to do that on the roster right now, at least do it well enough. So, yeah, I think Kyle Davidson's going to have to get a little bit creative, not necessarily say, now we're going all in. But to be able to get maybe a free agent or two to come in and maybe be a target that they didn't have prior to getting the top overall pick, or maybe they bring in a player through a trade that could be that kind of player. But as far as the prospects go, I'm of the thought process that while it's great to have Connor Bedard coming into the system, coming into the organization, I don't think that necessarily means that every other prospect timeline is now on his timeline.
Right.
I think each guy has got to be handled on their own pace so as to not stifle any of their developments, because from what we've seen from Kyle Davidson is that he's practicing patience, he's preaching patience, and so far that has seemed to have worked out with prospect number one on his original timeline with Lukas Reichel, and now it's all the other guys getting to the professional level and seeing what they can do.
Yeah, we have to remember that Connor Bedard is a freak of nature, is the exception to the rule.
Mm-hmm.
Very few guys are going to go straight from the NHL draft stage right to the NHL locker room on night one.
Much like we've just talked about with Patrick Kane.
Yeah, Kane and Taves, they are exceptions to the rule. Everybody gets to be NHL ready at their own pace, their own time. This regime, through a year plus, all about patience, all about we'd rather overdevelop than underdevelop.
Yeah.
Whereas the past regime, get him here as quickly as possible.
Right.
He's no good, trade him. That's how it was for a long time.
Right.
So, I know we're going to talk a lot about Korchinski today. He's arguably, after Lukas Reichel, the top prospect, I would say, at least as far as like who, but ceiling.
It's
like not
yeah.
not the top guy ready for the NHL, but as far as ceiling goals,
ceiling
he's probably
projection,
the top
sure,
prospect in the system until June 27th,
Yeah,
28th.
right.
Yeah, right.
I'm okay with patience. You got to take each player on a case by case basis. You can't say, well, this guy was in the NHL by the time he was 20, so all of our prospects need to be here by the time they're 20.
I think
it just doesn't work that way.
Your point of like you can't just have a cookie cutter development plan for prospects, because there are certain guys that play a certain style that need to ripen more. Lucas Reichel is a good example of an undersized, skinny, offensive forward, top 6 guy is going to need more time to develop. Whereas you take somebody like Ryder Ralston, who's never going to be a top-end NHL scorer, right? And maybe that's a guy who you feel a little more comfortable saying, all right, he can maybe come from college and play in the NHL because, A, he's a little bit older, he's played in college for 4 years, he's probably ready to make the jump. But also, that aside, we're not asking as much from him development-wise.
Sure.
For me, and I think the guy we're primarily talking about right now is Kevin Korchinski. If I'm deciding today, I'm saying you start the season with him, you play him, 7, whatever it is,
9.
before you burn 9 games before you burn the first year. And unless he gives you the message on the ice that you can absolutely not send me back down, send him back down. Let him go dominate in junior. You are loaded with left defensemen. You've got Philip Roos, Wyatt Kaiser, Alex Vlasic, Alec Regula, Isaac Phillips. Those are guys with the NHL experience. You've also got Nolan Allen as a left-handed defenseman. You've also got Ethan Del Mastro as a left-handed defenseman, and Korchinski. So you've got all these left defensemen. That does not include another left defenseman, Caleb Jones, who is a free agent but could very well be back.
8 left shot defensemen.
So you are loaded at that position unless Korchinski lights the preseason on fire and then comes in for the 9 regular season games and is just like, we'd be idiots to send this guy down. Send him down. I worry more about defensemen and forwards.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
While there's no harm in giving him the 7, 8, 9 games, I don't think putting him and Luke Richardson and Kyle Davidson, putting himself in the situation of, do we keep him up? Do we send him down? I don't think that that's smart. Because let's say he plays 7, 8, 9 games, lights it up, out of the gate, firing great. Game 30, he looks like a deer in headlights, and it's all completely crashed down. Now what do? Now you've burned that first year of his entry level deal. You have him in the NHL where he's potentially looking completely incapable of being on the ice. Then do you send him back, and now he's burned that year. I know that that's kind of doomsdaying it, but I think with how Kyle Davidson has been going, and what would be best for Korchinski, in my opinion, would be, come through prospect camp, come through training camp, preseason, maybe play a game or 2 in the NHL. But I think the idea should always be, you're going to go to the WHL, you're going to go maybe be the captain of the Thunderbirds, play 27, 28 minutes a night, and completely dominate that league one more year, and then come back and have the expectation as a 19-year-old. Because you got to remember, he was one of the youngest players in last year's draft class.
Yeah.
Like, he had just turned 18 a week before the draft. He's still 18 as we speak right now. So next season will be his 19-year-old season, which is for a majority of players who get drafted, their 19-year-old year is the year after they're drafted. So he's really young for his draft class. So I think having him go back and have that ability to yet again be the man in Seattle, be one of the best defensemen in the league, play those important minutes, I think that's going to be good for his development. And I think the other thing too is, he was with Team Canada this last winter, and he was a big part of what they were doing. But when crunch time came and the elimination rounds came, he was getting 6, 8 minutes a night. Like, he was not the guy that they turned to at the blue line. So I don't know. For me, going from that with Team Canada at the World Juniors to them being like, oh, he's going to be in the NHL, I think there's still a lot of ground to make up.
Well, we should mention this too, and pointing a thumb at myself for not mentioning this earlier. We had Jeff Merrick and Elliot Friedman say that here's the quote. This is Merrick says, quote, "We're under the assumption that Kevin Korchinski is on the Blackhawks roster for next year." And Elliot Friedman says, "Yep." Like it's a known fact.
Well, and
others have said so as well.
To bring it into the city, listening to the most recent podcast from Scott Powers and Mark Lazarus, they both were kind of speaking in the same assumption. So I don't think that's. I don't align with that. I again, like I said, I think him going and playing one more year in junior doesn't hurt him. I think it can only help him. There's still some things that, I just don't see him as being an 82 game NHL player. And I don't think the up and down is going to be good. I think just let him have the preseason, have the training camp, and then go to the WHL one more year. Have the opportunity to be the guy in Seattle, be the guy for Team Canada at the World Juniors, where you're actually playing 20, 25 minutes as a top line guy and a go-to player in that setting, and then go from there. Because he's also going to line up with some of the other guys that we're going to talk about too.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. I mean, if he comes in, development camp looks amazing, preseason looks amazing. Give him up to those 9 games, and then if he makes it impossible to send him back, okay. But defensemen, 18, 19-year-old defensemen, you don't see too many of those for a reason.
Right.
And yeah, some may argue that another year dominating the WHL is kind of like a flat line in his development. But, I'd rather have a flat line than one that goes down real quick. If they decide that, and another reason why, before I get to that point, another reason why they may send him back, we saw it with Lucas Reichel burning that 11 games. Kyle Davis has got to start thinking about when all these contracts are ending.
Yeah,
so he's going to have Connor Bedard's first year for sure next year. Does he really want to have to pay Kevin Korchinski and Connor Bedard big contracts potentially the same offseason? Probably not.
Right.
That's another factor in these things. And Kyle Davidson, unlike he who shall not be named, actually has that foresight.
Yeah.
He actually probably has a big board somewhere with contracts and stuff like that.
And for those that don't remember, the reason for burning the first year for Reichel was so he's a free agent sooner, which might sound crazy, but had they not, and then he came and had like 2 great years, he's going to be a hell of a lot more expensive than he'll be a year closer. You know what I mean?
Right.
So now when he's a free agent, he won't have as much accomplished theoretically under his belt, therefore making him cheaper to resign.
Him having one full NHL season, which is hopefully a really good one, is going to be a cheaper RFA deal than if he had 2 really good NHL seasons.
Well, and
now, he hasn't even had one yet.
Well, now that they burned it last season, two seasons ago.
So this is his last year of his contract.
As soon as it's July 1st, he could technically be offered and sign an extension. I imagine he would not do that.
Crazy.
But basically,
unless they're gonna give him something.
Give him something right away,
or something
maybe.
Skip that bridge deal.
Skip the bridge.
Say, hey,
we'll
give you 5-6 years now at kind of a discounted price because we believe in you.
But we're going to assure you that $4 million, whatever it is.
Right. So
I still would be like,
so
nope.
So it's basically this season is his big season to kind of make the most of that next contract that's coming up.
And I know there's a lot of my other point about Korchinski. Back to that topic, if I know we see it in the chat, Boquist, Joki Harju, those are guys that were rushed to the NHL, quickly traded.
Yeah.
Neither guy has been amazing since leaving. Joki Harju has been better than Boquist.
Good.
A better team.
Yeah.
He's fit in more of a role because he doesn't have to be. When Owen Power and Rasmus Dahlin are there and becoming stars, you don't have to be.
Tia Samuelson.
Where Boquist, there's probably a little more pressure there.
Well, you mentioned, sorry to interrupt you real quick, Owen Power was a surefire number 1 overall pick defenseman and went back to college.
Right.
Cale McCarr played 2 years in college before he came.
Mm-hmm. Defensemen are different.
Yeah.
Like, it's easy to be a dynamic scoring winger as a teenager. It's harder to be a two-way defenseman at any age, let alone a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if they decide, yes, Kevin Korchinski's ready for the NHL, he's going to be here all next season, I feel more comfortable doing that with Luke Richardson and Kevin Dean as his coaches than Derek King, God knows Jeremy Colleton, even Joe Quenneville. Luke Richardson's not going to put this kid, he's not going to give him too much. He's not going to put him in positions that he can't handle until he knows he can handle him. I mean, when you look at the growth, I know Caleb Jones is not a superstar by any means. But when you look at the growth in one season of playing under Luke Richardson and Kevin Dean, take Caleb Jones from October of last season and compare him to Caleb Jones in April of this season. Different guys. Yeah. So that you saw growth and development there. And that's got a lot to do with the coaching. Having 2 ex-veteran, very good defensemen on your staff is going to be huge for Korchinski. So if they and all the other young defensemen they have, look at the improvement Seth Jones made over the course of one season under this coaching staff. Yeah. So if they decide next year is the year, it's going to be Kevin Korchinski, I feel far more confident that this coaching staff can make it work as opposed to any in the past. That being said, there is no reason to rush it. The Blackhawks are not, just because Connor Bedard is coming, it doesn't change the timeline.
Right.
As far as what next season means. Maybe it takes a year off the back end of the rebuild, but it doesn't change what this upcoming season is. It's another season of being a bottom feeder and getting your young players ready to get here. And Kevin Korchinski is one of those guys.
If I'm Kyle Davidson, here's the one change I make this offseason is even before Bedard, I'm bringing back Domi. I'm bringing back Athanasiou. They were good fits. They're versatile. They're inexpensive. They want to be here, right? Okay, bring those 2 back. And now I'm also looking for one more piece, one more established top 6 to plug in. Maybe with Bedard, maybe not, because maybe you don't want to have Bedard and Reichel on the same line, whatever. But like we mentioned yesterday, Brock Besser, Connor Garland, maybe you sign Ryan O'Reilly or somebody like that. But that's it. I'm not from development-wise, I'm not straying from it. Yeah. I'm not. And I think even without Connor Bedard, my opinion on Korchinski is still the same, right? If he comes in and blows our doors off, cool, stay. By all means, I trust Richardson and Dean, like you said, Greg, to develop him correctly and not put him in a shitty situation. But otherwise, just stick with the plan and bring in one more Domi caliber-esque piece, a 50, 60-point guy with some experience to come in and help Connor Bedard his rookie year, because you don't want Bedard to be the de facto top offensive option. He's going to be, chances are, he's their leading scorer next year just based on skill alone. Fine. Maybe it's Reichel. That'd be great.
One of these days you guys are going to listen to me.
I hope you're right. Just like the Flames winning the Cup.
I thought you had
see how that pans out.
Let's not look at our brackets.
Playoffs aren't over yet, pal.
That's true.
And my team is still alive.
Yeah. That I was starting to feel good about that Reichel bet up until Monday. And
all I'm saying is somebody has to assist on all 80 of Connor Bedard's goals.
That's right. That's right.
So if he gets 73 assists on Connor Bedard goals and scores 20 of his own, that's 93 points. I like his chances.
Michael you heard it here first. Lucas Reichel, 93 points.
There you go.
And Connor Bedard, 92 points. 80 goals, 12 assists.
Yes. Selfish.
Michael says, go get a guy like JT Comfort. Same idea. You know, a versatile, can play center, can play wing. Not a superstar by any means. Not someone that's going to break the bank.
JT Comfort is another Tyler Johnson.
Yeah.
Like, guy, not a bad
healthier.
Fit.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I wouldn't hate Ryan O'Reilly.
Watch your donut shops.
Well, we don't have Tim Hortons here, so we're safe. I wouldn't mind that. I just don't think he wants to come to a rebuilding team. But, there's coming here, there won't be a ton of expectations. You get to be Connor Bedard's, hockey dad for a couple of seasons. There's worse gigs you can have. I just don't know if he wants to do that. If he does, and the Hawks want to give him a 2 to 3 year deal Don't give them, nobody they sign this summer needs to be like in the long term.
No.
This like a 2-year, 3-year deal. The other guy that I would do, like Alex Killorn is attractive to me.
Yeah.
Because he's a really good player, underrated on those Lightning teams, but he's a guy that helps build the culture.
Mm-hmm.
So you get him and Tyler Johnson, guys that won multiple cups with the Tampa Bay Lightning. You get those guys around these young players. They can lead by example without dominating the room. They're not like the Kane or Taves where you have to like, oh my God, it's their team. They're the face of the franchise. You bring in a Killorn who can give you, 40, 50 points and give you that leadership to be like, this is what it takes.
Yeah.
Like, okay, kid, you're here. You're the number one pick. You haven't done shit yet. Like, this is what it takes to win Stanley Cups.
But the great part now is this conversation a week ago is a lot more far-fetched. But now with Connor Bedard in the fold, all these things become possible now because you've got these guys saying, all right, I'm going to go play for 2-3 years in Chicago. I'm going to be on a line with Connor Bedard. I'm going to put up way bigger numbers than I would probably anywhere else. And then my next contract, I'm going to get a GM fired with my next contract, like a JT Miller type of thing. And that's why I think O'Reilly's a bit of a pipe dream. He's 32, just turned 32 in February.
I feel like it'd be a 1-year deal.
Yeah, maybe if it's O'Reilly, it's a 1-year deal. But I think he did have a great regular season, 30 points in 53 games, but 9 points in 10 games in the playoffs. He's performing on anytime you're a Leaf in the playoffs. That is the biggest stage, and he's performing well. So he's probably made himself some money. Does he want to do a 1 year and say, I can really cash out after 1 year if I put up huge numbers with Bedard? Or is he saying, I'm going to have one last contract here. I'm going to go try to win another cup with everyone's been talking about Jonathan Taves in Colorado. Ryan O'Reilly in Colorado makes a lot of sense, too.
Been there, done that, though.
I know, but
I don't know if that'll happen.
A team that I would think that would really love a Ryan O'Reilly is Boston. Because what they're losing
makes a lot of sense, too.
Krejci, not coming back most likely.
I could kind of see that, too.
Right.
Like, it looks like a natural fit.
Like, that they need that depth down the middle. Like,
that makes a lot of sense.
Either him or they make that trade to get Blake Wheeler. That's who they go after. If they're convinced they can maybe try and run this thing back one more time, they may not have an option based on where their prospects are and where their contract situations are. So, and signing Ryan O'Reilly, it doesn't signify that the rebuild is over or any of these veterans. It doesn't signify that Kyle Davidson is no longer being patient and sticking to his plan. You got to have somebody here.
And they have to get to
especially with Connor Bedard.
And they have to get to cap floor.
That too.
So they just got to spend money.
So you're not going to sign Ryan O'Reilly or any of these guys to a 6-7 year deal that's going to handcuff you when you're good. No, you're talking about for 2 seasons, 3 at the most. The way Max Domi's been playing, another couple points the other night. He's getting high praise from Tyler Seguin. There's going to be a lot more competition for him than there was 3 weeks ago.
But you say to Max, come back. The fan base loves you. You get to play with Connor Bedard.
But at what point is Domi's price going to be too much to be like, well, we can give you $1.5 million more? Like, if it gets up to $5-6 million,
the Hawks don't really have a number they can't give him. They can give him $12 million for 2 years if they wanted to.
If they wanted to, sure.
Like, what's stopping them? They got $40 million in cap space or whatever it is. Like, money is not the issue for the Hawks. Like, it's term, which Kyle Davidson said he's not. And this was before Bedard, not interested in getting any long-term deals under the belt. But as we were talking about a couple weeks ago, getting to the cap floor, the thought was more Mrazek's or more, do something like the Coyotes do and take on some bum and just bury him. Well, now Bedard's here, so maybe sign somebody and have somebody that actually plays for them.
You got to have some real NHL talent. You can't put Connor Bedard on a line with Joey Anderson and Boris Kachuk.
Yeah, no.
No offense to those guys, but you can't do that because that's just going to be a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
So you got to bring in some legit veteran top 6 NHL players for this upcoming season and maybe the next. You're not building your team for the next decade. So, Domi, I'd love to have him back, but he might be playing himself right back out of town.
Right.
Because, coming back to Chicago, he loved it here. He'll get to play with Connor Bedard. But if the Colorado Avalanche or one of these legit cup contenders come and say, hey, here's 4 years, $24 million, and you're going to help us win a championship over the next 4 years, he might be like, yeah, okay, I want to win.
And
I want to win now.
And that stability is something that he said that he wanted. So even if he comes back to Chicago and they're like, 2-year deal, he might be like, no, I want 3, I want 4.
And he's not getting any younger, and he might be like, this is my last chance to really cash in that big contract with a contender, hopefully for him. So as much as I want to see it, and as much I still think it's a really good possibility. I know I would everything we've heard, the Blackhawks want to make it happen. He might be playing too good right now.
Well, look, and go back to July 1st of last summer, this scenario we're discussing now with Max Domi is exactly why he signed in Chicago. He wanted to come, play on the top line, compile points because someone has to on a bad team, get that deadline deal, perform in the playoffs. Everything Max Domi wanted has gone according to plan for Max Domi.
Right.
So whatever his thought was on June 30th, 2022, it's probably pretty close to the same as it is, right now. It's just saying this is going exactly how I scripted it. Now, July 1st, 2023, my phone's going to be ringing a lot more often than it did last summer, and I can weigh my options and say, okay, play for Bedard or play with Bedard or go back to Dallas, try to win another cup, or maybe Boston's got room for me, whatever. Now he's got all these possibilities.
Yeah.
And what's important to him? Is it the role? Does he want to be a number one center/winger with Bedard and pile up points, or does he want to win a Stanley Cup? That's the question. Before we move on, another name that Lazarus and Powers brought up, and we mentioned it briefly yesterday, is Tyler Bertuzzi.
No, I don't want it.
Yeah. No,
not interested.
My feeling's not changed.
Not interested. Because I think he's going to demand a big contract for how he played in Boston. And he's a peen.
Yeah. I mean,
I know we had worries about Domi, but I never considered Max Domi on the same level of pug wackiness as Tyler Bertuzzi. I'm not interested. I get what he brings.
And he's going to be looking for a long-term deal.
He's going to want a 5-year, $30 million contract, and I'm not giving that to him. Under no circumstances. I don't trust him.
Your point yesterday is if Steve Yzerman, with a Red Wings team looking to take that next step and start winning now.
Launched his ass.
that tells you
that's all
something.
I need to hear.
When I saw that trade, I was like, oh, maybe it's not
all
just.
I need to hear.
Because for those that forgot, and we're not going to get into the whole thing here, but just for those that maybe don't know this, he was like the only NHL player that was not vaccinated.
Yeah, he could not play in Canada.
Right, and it was just like, did my own research, that sort of a thing. And however you feel about that, this is not the place to get into it, but that's one thing. But the Yzerman thing, your point yesterday, really, I'm like, that's a really great point because we like to joke about the genius of Steve Yzerman, but he is one of the smarter people in hockey.
Tyler Bertuzzi is so freaking good. Why didn't Detroit want to keep him when they're this close to becoming a playoff team?
Yeah.
There's a reason.
Exactly.
It's not because he was a valuable asset.
They chose not to build with him.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Enough said. Move on. Let him re-sign it wherever. Not interested.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tend to agree with that.
I would pass on that.
Well, if you want to get your house decked out with some sweet Hawks merch in time for Connor Bedard's debut next season, you're going to want to go to foco.com. Not only will you get fitted out in the best gear around with the hoodies and the shoes and the banana hammocks, they've also got signs and bobbleheads and everything in between. You can see our set is decked out with some great Foco gear, including my favorite, the Hayden Wisniewski Immaculate Inning bobblehead. Yes, it gets that specific. And speaking of the Cubs, it is spring and baseball season. Aloha shirts, straw hats, polos, bags, everything you need for a game at Wrigley or guaranteed rate. Thanks again for set decorations. We appreciate those, like we said. And check out foco.com or click the link in the description below. For all non-presale items, use the promo code CHGO for 10% off. Again, that's foco.com, FOCO.com, promo code CHGO for 10% off.
Hey.
What?
You like saving money and energy and monergy?
Yes.
Well, ComEd can help you do that. ComEd, with their energy efficiency program, is committed to helping families and businesses in the communities they serve, helping manage energy usage and lower energy bills now and into the future.
Yes, that is correct. ComEd offers a wide variety of incentives on lighting and other efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, and public sector customers of all sizes across their territory. ComEd also offers free facility assessments that can help find energy-saving opportunities like for HVAC systems, commercial kitchen equipment, or industrial processes.
Now, Jay, how does that work?
I'm telling you, stop interrupting me. An authorized engineer will work with you, Mario, to develop a detailed assessment plan specific to your goals and needs. These can be done in person or virtually and last approximately 2 hours. Within 3 to 4 weeks, customers like you, Mario, will receive a report detailing energy efficiency projects that they can start working on immediately. Each recommendation will include estimated energy savings, cost savings, project costs, potential incentives, and simple payback. If you own a business, do not wait. Get started saving money and energy today. For energy-saving tips, lighting incentives, or to schedule your free facility assessment, go to comed.com/poweringbiz.
Was that comed.com/poweringbiz?
Yes, thank you for paying attention.
I was
Schedule
paying
it
attention.
Narfin had it in
today.
he's listened to this before. Good stuff. Speaking of our chat, I love the fact that we've got people in there already debating on who should be the #1 pick next year. We haven't even drafted Connor Bedard yet. Bask in the glory of Connor Bedard before we worry about next year's draft.
Can I get ahead of myself? Are we certain this team is in the bottom 5 next year?
Let's wait.
If it's Connor Bedard and the currently assembled team,
Yes.
yes.
Well,
Ask me this again on
Dude.
July 2nd.
Have you played NHL
July
23
2nd.
with accurate rosters?
Yes.
It's horrible.
I know it's bad, but I'm just saying, with what we're kind of discussing, the free agency moves could be, along with Connor Bedard, is this still a bottom 5 roster?
So, all right, let's play the game. Bedard, Domi. Let's just say Domi. Let's say Athanasiou is back. And one of Besser, Garland, someone in Comfer, someone in that range.
Plus Reichel.
So you got Reichel, Domi, Bedard, however you want to mix that lineup. Athanasiou, Besser, Radish,
Kurashev, Tyler Johnson, Jason Dickinson,
Mackenzie Entwistle.
You got Entwistle,
Kachuk,
Joey Anderson,
Anders Bjork,
Cole Gutman.
Forget about Cole Gutman.
Austin Wagner, maybe. Reese Johnson.
Reese
Future
Johnson.
Captain Reese Johnson.
I mean,
I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm not betting my beard on it just yet. But I'm just saying.
You also
Are
have
we?
Colin Blackwell to fall down and crash into things. Don't
You
forget.
got Blackwell.
And you also have to assume a jump for some people.
Right.
Reichel, 82 games of Reichel is going to be pretty good.
That should be. He was playing at about a 50-point pace last year.
So you're saying, are they a bottom 5 team?
Yeah. Like, are we certain they're going to finish bottom 5?
If they added
no one of significance besides Connor Bedard, I don't think I'm having this debate.
No.
Right.
But
So I said, ask me again July 2nd.
yeah.
I mean, sure, will they not be bottom 5? Maybe not, but they'll definitely be like 6 or 7. Like they'll be a lottery.
They're a lottery team.
They're a lottery team.
Still lottery.
Yeah, I think
still
so.
like legitimate lottery, not
Like-
like they finished 15th.
No, they'll
Yeah.
be. They'll still be like.
plus they'll rig it again and they'll get #1.
Right.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
So they'll definitely be on the. Yeah, I think they'll be
okay.
in the bottom 7, 8. Because again,
Yeah.
what happens trade deadline? Like
Right. Right.
They're not going to have big sell-offs, I don't think, though. Because if you're
Unless
bringing Domi
unless
back,
they sign guys to 1-year deals.
but I don't
know.
I don't think Domi's coming for a year.
No.
no, he's not.
And I think Bedard also changes that a little bit too.
Yeah, and I think Athanasiou, if he does come back, he wants more term, which tends to make me believe he's not going to come
This
back.
trade deadline could be the trade deadline where Connor Murphy gets traded. You know,
Maybe.
like a Jake McCabe deal last year, or
Yeah.
you
I
know,
got scared last night when he lost his skate blade. He was like
McCabe.
jumping off on one leg. I'm like, oh, he's hurt somehow. No.
Nah, he's just powering through.
But speaking of our chat, 220 people watching right now in the middle
Love
of the
that.
day on
Damn.
Thursday is
Thank you.
fantastic.
Not enough likes,
But
though.
only 56 likes. Come on, kids. Do us a favor. While you're staring at these 6 amazing legs in front of you, hit the thumbs up button.
Don't make me
Smash it.
show feet.
Smash it. If we don't get 100 likes,
100 likes, I show feet.
if we don't get 100
Hey,
likes,
you heard it here
I'm wearing
first.
pants tomorrow.
Michael asked
5
me a
minutes
question.
to
Who are
hit
the
it.
5 teams worse than the Hawks next year?
Again, it's just
It's
I mean,
so hard to
there
say
were
right
some
now.
there were some teams that were surprisingly better. Like we all didn't think Anaheim was going to be.
Anaheim should be better.
A lottery
Columbus
team.
should be better.
Anaheim, please.
Well, no, the
Anaheim
season's over.
and
Columbus.
I don't hate Anaheim. I was only calling them that. The season's over. We beat them for the number 1 pick.
Okay.
They're
Fair
back
enough.
to being Anaheim. Now, the Ass Jackets will always be the Ass Jackets. Just because. It's
Well, and
tough to
teams-
say who's going to be worse
Yeah.
than them because we don't know what the rosters look like. There
like,
are teams
teams that were in the bottom 5 this year, like Sharks should be better.
that should be, yes.
Canadians should be better.
And then there's teams that are like
Wow. Why do you think the
Fit-
Sharks are going to be better, though?
just with natural
I don't know.
progression. of
But they
some of
lost
their
Timo
young
Meier.
players. Yeah, but you're going to have who's their top prospect? They got the Ozzy Osbourne guy.
We spelt
He's
or whatever
good.
his name is.
He's
Yeah,
good. They've
Harriet.
got who's this Eklund? They've got the kid from Michigan.
Thomas Bordelot.
I mean, they've got some good young players. They should be
They still have Eric Carlson.
better. Yes.
Anaheim, to me,
Anaheim getting Fantilli.
massively underachieved. With all the talent that team has,
Yeah.
and maybe you look at them as a franchise that maybe rush some people.
I thought Anaheim was going to contend for a playoff spot this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got guys like McTavish and Zegras and
Remember, you had
Drysdale.
John Klingberg.
They had John Klingberg. Now you add Fantilli. Likely Fantilli. They should be much better.
And there's going to be teams that either just missed the playoffs or maybe even made the playoffs that are going to be bad next year. Who
Right.
knows what Winnipeg is going to look like next year?
Yeah, I mean that.
Who knows what Boston's going to look like?
need to
Not
Seth
saying
Rollins
Boston's
and
going to
burn
go
that
from
down.
greatest regular season of all time to worst record in the league. That would be quite the downfall.
No, but they're not going to be historically great
Well,
either.
and a team too this year that I don't think anyone expected to be in the bottom 10 was like Washington.
yeah,
So there's always going to be a team that's like
there's
that.
always going to be a team that made the playoffs. You know, what's Pittsburgh going to look like next year under
Yeah.
new Calgary? How are they going to right the ship? There are teams that, and then there's teams that just get ravaged by injuries and can't get nothing right.
Yeah.
So,
Rick says Arizona will be under the Hawks, maybe the Sharks. Arizona, they're going to add Logan Cooley next year.
and they're getting 2 top 12 picks. Like, I wouldn't. We all thought Arizona was going to be
Yeah, and
the
they
worst
were-
team in the league, and they won way too many games.
Oh, blame Vmelka
six
on that
worse.
one.
Who's that?
Said blame Vmelka for that one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He stole them some games they
And-
they had no
and-
business winning.
And, there's no justice in the NHL. But, that's a topic for another day. Another show, another network.
We're going to talk to Craig Morgan next week, by the way.
Yeah.
He wants
looking
to come
forward
on?
I'm a big fan of Craig Morgan.
Yeah.
Even this past week. I get where he's coming from, but
We got news
Ah.
from the NHL. Playoffs continuing. Darnell Nurse will miss Game 5 for the Oilers and Vegas Golden Knights series. We know Alex Pietrangelo is having a hearing. We don't know what his suspension will be for trying to chop down the hands of Leon Draisaitl.
yeah, that was
There's
a
no way he's
bullshit.
not suspended.
Yeah, that was just
If they're upholding the automatic suspension from Darnell Nurse for fighting within the final 5 minutes of the game, then yes, Pietrangelo should at least miss one game.
Which that suspension is garbage because I get the rule. But Mark Stone, the Vegas Golden Knights captain, admitted after the game it was Nick Hague that asked for the fight at the face-off, and Darnell Nurse gets suspended for Game 5. Which it's a big loss, but the way he's really been playing, it's not that big of a loss. Him and
Right.
Bouchard have been kind of lousy in that series.
it's been tough.
But they don't really have anybody to replace him. So, but if Pietrangelo's not in for Vegas and Nurse is out for
Have a wash.
it's-
A 1-1
Yeah.
wash. If you do it for one game,
Pietrangelo should be at least 2. That was garbage. If Michael Bunton got 3 for what he did,
Yeah.
this was. If
I
that's not
wonder-
intent to injure, then nothing is.
I agree, but I wonder if it being now you're in games 5, 6, maybe 7 in the second round, like.
But if you want to set the precedent to make sure shit like that doesn't happen again, you ban them for the rest of the series.
Sure.
You don't say, well, these games are more important, so we're only going to give you one game. You go, these games are more important. We're going to give you more games.
I mean, you're
Exactly,
you're arguing with logic, not NHL logic.
This is a good point.
I know. I'm using logic, and that doesn't exist in the mustachioed mind of George Poros.
Yeah. So weird. By the way, that fight was awesome.
That was a good one.
Haig and Nurse. Boy, Haig just missed with a clean upper. Like,
And then Nurse.
if that uppercut landed.
I love right after they finally get him settled down, he just laughs right at him and blows him a kiss on the way to the
There's
bench.
no better way to end a fight or an argument than with a smile.
Yep.
It's just like.
That's why I do in the car.
It just gets you so mad. It gets the other person so mad.
Instead of giving the middle finger to somebody like in traffic, I give them a thumbs up and a smile. That pisses them off even more. Like,
just don't do it with your wife. It's just a little bit of advice. Yeah.
Greg, what else makes you smile?
It's going to be...
what else makes me smile? Wearing Shady Rays. Thanks for asking. I had a big smile on my face wearing them today out for my walk on this beautiful morning and driving into work. And you can take on the sun with gear built to last with our friends at Shady Rays, who have you covered for the warm weather ahead with premium polarized shades at an affordable price. That's the key. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair we've worn. I'm going to make my own edit to that and say they're even better. Durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. And that's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your pair, even on day one, they told us they're going to send you a brand new pair. No questions asked. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence, because they have your back long after you purchase. And together with their customers, Shady Rays is providing much-needed support to nonprofit partners across the United States through Shady Rays Impact, from building play sets for pediatric cancer patients to providing young adults with MS the outdoor adventure of a lifetime. Shady Rays is making an impact in your community and others like it for years to come. So you're going to look good and you're going to feel good because you're doing something awesome for others in need. And if you don't love your Shady Rays, which is like freaking impossible, exchange them for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back. And exclusive for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com and use the promo code CHGO for 50% off 2 pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by 250,000 people.
A lot of people, a lot of
Sounds
stars.
like there's 250,000 people in the office right now.
Give them the clap and the thumbs up. All right, before we wrap up the show, we've got a couple super chats we need to take care of. Thank you for those. Always welcome to super chat us. We've got 83 likes, by the way, so you're.
No feet.
I don't think you're going to see any feet today unless you rush.
No feet, folks.
Ralph says, "What is Richardson and Davidson's plan for the system/style of play for the team now that the Hawks have Bedard, skilled like the Leafs, or a physical forecheck? Both."
I think it's going to be
Playoff teams need
north-south, simple, fast, and Connor Bedard, go be yourself.
Think New Jersey Devils.
Yeah.
Sure.
By the way, Bedard is not like some kind of floaty little like. There's a lot of comps made to Patrick Kane. Bedard doesn't play like Patrick Kane. He's not like a periphery kind of like go find a spot, kind of hide at the blue line kind of a guy. He does back check. He does get into traffic. Like, I'm not saying Kane never did that, but most of Kane
mostly didn't.
He was mostly a periphery player.
Yeah.
Bedard is a guy, especially if he's a center, by design is going to be all over the ice.
Yeah.
So don't just think because you're adding a highly skilled player that suddenly the Hawks are going to become this dainty team that just, tries to skate past everybody. They're going to try to skate through people too.
Yeah.
Like, you could tell by the kind of people that Kyle Davidson has brought in exactly what he's trying to do. And adding Connor Bedard is not going to change that. And we got one more super chat. This one is from Nick. He says, with the culture the Hawks built last year and with Bedsy and Reichs hopefully having good years, I think the Hawks could do way better than we think. That's sure.
That's kind of my thought process. Like with those 2 young guys coming in, with what's already there, with what could be added, I don't know.
I would just say
I think there will be more exciting games than last year.
There's no doubt it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be a lot like this year's Bears.
And here's the thing.
You come out of most games feeling like, that was awesome. Well, you lost. Yeah, but that was awesome.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Not only that, but I'm also looking forward to a season where you don't have to like dread actually winning a game.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's going to be nice.
I think maybe that's part of it too, is like next season we're not tanking. We might just be bad.
Or I should say, more specifically, I'm not going to dread doing a post-game show after a win.
Right.
Because, hey, 82 post-game shows next year, we get to talk about Connor Bedard.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
That's beautiful.
That's the best part about all of this. Not only for the Blackhawks, but we actually are going to get paid to watch Connor Bedard play hockey. If
Hopefully
that
for a very
just
long
make
time.
you pinch yourself.
Yeah, really.
I mean, good Lord.
One
I
more
love my
payoff to wrap up everything that we talked about today. We did have a graphic built for today, so I feel like we should at least get to it. We were talking earlier about the top prospects in the Blackhawks system, mainly Kevin Korchinski, but this was from The Athletic, from Scott Powers and Mark Lazarus. These were their top 10 in the system today. This will change, obviously, come the end of June. One thing that I found very interesting about this top 10, and if you're listening, 10-1 is Ryan Green, Paul Ludwinski, Colton Dock, Cole Gutman, Alex Vlasic, Wyatt Kaiser, Arvid Soderblom, Frank Nazar, Lucas Reichel, and Kevin Korchinski. I found Wyatt Kaiser being that high very interesting.
I did
Me too.
Because he
especially ahead of Vlasic.
Because he was always considered in that 10 to 15 range, I think, when he was in college. And when he made the jump to the professional league, the ranks, I really didn't see enough that I was like, oh yeah, he's top 5. Like I think from what we saw from Vlasic, I would have put him there rather than Kaiser. But hey, I mean this also could be based on where the Blackhawks see him, because I think he has a good chance of being in the NHL for full time next year.
He was impressive.
Yeah, he had his moments.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see with that. Yeah, but again, lists like that are why I prefer a pyramid system than a list.
Yeah. By the way, someone mentioned Ethan Del Mastro. Lebowski 5, not having Ethan Del Mastro is weird. The next 5, and Mario found this, Jalen Lipin, Nolan Allen, Samuel Savoie, Gavin Hayes, and Aiden Thompson. So they don't even have Del Mastro.
That wasn't the next
15.
5. No, that was 15 to 20. That was 16 to 20.
No, the 11.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm stupid.
11 was Sam Renzel. 12 was Isaac Phillips. 13 was Ilya Stefanov in Russia. 14, Drew Comezzo. 15, Ethan Del Mastro.
Okay.
And if there was any kind of certainty about Stefanov ever coming over, he'd be much higher on the list. He's a good player, but I think
he's a good young player, but he's not like, I don't think we're drooling at the mouth for him.
No, but I think he'd be one of those sneaky players.
Yes, and I'm sure his contract ends at a time frame that will be good for him to be ready to come over to the NHL if he ever wants to.
Isn't his deal up after next year in Russia?
I believe so.
I think that's right.
And he's like 21. So
is he like a Kurashev type?
No, he's more of he's a bigger down the middle. He's not super fast, not super flashy, but like pretty solid, sturdy down the middle kind of player.
Maybe I could compare him a little bit to like a young Artem Anisimov, but with better speed.
Just get in front of that, let the puck hit you in the butt.
A little bit,
sure.
A little bit. He's got a bit of a shot, but he was the captain on that team for a little bit after Radulov got hurt. But I'm thinking he's on lower on that list just because you don't know with those guys if and when they're ever going to show up.
Yeah. All right, we're going to wrap things up. Lord Hostess says, who do the Hawks target with the 19th overall this year? Don't worry. We've got plenty of time to get into that.
The best player available,
my friend. And we will.
Yes.
We're back tomorrow at 2 p.m. We will be remote tomorrow, as we are most Fridays, but we look forward to talking to you then. Reminder, we are presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. Thanks to Steven for running the show. For Mario and Greg, I'm Jay. This has been the CHGO Blackhawks Podcast.